Welcome to Let's Dad This, a podcast by two bros just trying to dad their best. All are welcome here. Dads, moms, pet parents, non-parents, and everything in between.
I like that you added dads.
Thank you.
Good job by you. I am Jason. I'm the older brother, dad of 3, uncle of many.
And I'm Adam, the younger brother, dad of 1 tiny human, and the uncle of more.
We've been brothers almost my entire life.
And all of mine.
And I've been a father for almost 14 years.
And I, not to brag, have successfully kept a child alive for 1 month now.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Every episode, we're going to dive into some little baby topics and some big baby topics. Sometimes we'll have guests, though not today, and just provide our respective perspectives from a seasoned and a brand new dad. But before we get into all that, how's it going? You're dad for a month.
I am a dad for a month. We took a photo of conveniently Wren's 1 month anniversary. Took place on the opening day of Major League Baseball, and as people listen to this, they'll find out I'm a giant baseball dork. Played baseball in college. Somehow got fortunate enough to marry a person who also loves baseball, so we did her 1 month little photo of her wearing a very cute baseball onesie.
I just want to let you know you're a dork, not just for baseball.
Yeah, thank you. Yes,
for the
please.
record.
Please push his glasses up nose. I did want to tell you, last week on our Things That We Love as Dads, our last segment, our dad stuff, you mentioned Pet Resolve. And to celebrate opening day yesterday, Alex and I went to just a restaurant with Wren to watch some of the Guardians game and came home, and Holden, our almost 15-year-old Weimaraner, had pooped everywhere. And I mean everywhere. Carpet, rug runners, wooden floors. Honestly, first off, incredible amount. Genuinely impressed. So I was laughing when I was like, wow, we're going to record, and I need to tell him that I also was a big, I don't know that it's fully out. You know when your pets poop everywhere or they get hit by a skunk and then it's just in your nose for days, and so every time one of us walks in, we're like, does it still smell like poop? I can't tell if it still smells like poop. So that's how we are. We're great. Ren is starting to sleep a little bit more, but man, Holden just was like, oh, you wanted to have a nice day out with your daughter? Think again.
I gotta tell you, when you said, I don't know if it's all the way out, I did not know where you were going with that. I like where it landed, which was just the smell in my nose. Totally get it, though. Totally get it.
It was absolutely terrible. But yeah, other than that, Wren is starting to sleep 4 or 5 hour chunks. Last night, if anyone has had a newborn or is currently having and experiencing this, she's 4 weeks old, and last night she slept from 8:30 till 2:30, and then from 3:15 when she fell back asleep till 6:30. So we basically had to wake up once in the middle of the night. That was what's up. That was very, very cool. So that's how we're doing. How are you guys doing?
First of all, that's great, and that is what's up, so thank you for saying that. We are pretty good. We actually had Skye's 4-year well child this morning, and so he was hilarious the way he was talking to the medical assistant and the nurse practitioner within the meeting, or within the visit. At one point, the nurse practitioner put gloves on, and he's like, what are those for? And she's like, well, I have to, look under your underwear. And he's just like, what? It literally says that to her. And she's like, okay, I understand. You know that there's only certain people and it's got to be safe. And she did a nice job of talking about when it's safe to have people look through. And then he's just kind of looks at me okay, what is this weirdo doing? And then this was the funniest thing for me, and I had to kind of turn away. So she does her thing and checks, and she's like 1 and 2. And I, for whatever reason, just was laughing hysterically. Man. I think, was it from Dr. Evil? It was 1, 2, and 3. We're good. Yeah, so that's kind of what I thought. But everything went well. He's progressing really nicely. The girls are good. Not a ton of drama over the last couple of weeks that I can think of in this moment. So that's good. Yeah. So everything's all right here. I had jury duty this week. I actually had to report, which was wild, and it was just a busy week at work. We're recording this on a Friday. Super glad that it's Friday. Excited to get on with the weekend.
Yeah, we've been really lucky to record this, and also the second episode is because it's been during my paternity leave. So it'll be, I like that we've kind of established we've done several episodes now, so we want to keep the momentum going. So I think it'll be easier for us to schedule out episodes before or after this. I think if we were both working from the jump, it would have been harder, but now it's easy for us to guilt trip each other, be like, we have 3 episodes out. We got to keep going, man.
That's right. All the listeners and the viewers too. And speaking of which, we should probably say people may have noticed that there's been a pivot. We're no longer called Dad Bros because there's a great other podcast out there called Dad Bros. I'll let you speak to that. You're the podcast expert.
Yeah, I am a podcast expert, so that was on me. When Jay and I were coming up with this, I came up with the name Dad Bros because we're dads and we're brothers. And I was like, clearly no one's ever thought of that. We're the smartest. And then I did no research as to if there was another show that was called that. And it turns out there is another podcast called Dad Bros Show. And I think they have like 600 episodes or something crazy. And so out of nowhere, for like the first episode, we both kind of came up with, let's dad this. And we talk about our big baby topics. And so it just kind of made sense. So the nice thing is if you're already subscribed, I realized this in real time when I changed the name on all the different things. It just keeps the same system. So if you're already subscribed, this is going to show up in your various podcast feeds. But I will say, just for what it's worth, we record all these video as well, and they're on YouTube, and we're getting some subscribers there. And a cool thing is, because of my day job, I know how to make video content, and I do. And so I've been putting a lot of not just clips from the episodes, but different videos that Jay and I record on YouTube and also TikTok. And I actually looked today, our YouTube shorts that I've been putting up this month alone have over 8,000 views, which is really, really cool.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you like video, or if you just want to subscribe to us on YouTube or again on like TikTok, we're trying to share in between episodes just little things that come to our mind about parenting and being dads, and it's kind of free-flowing thoughts, and people seem to enjoy those. So look at us being professional podcasters, telling people where they can subscribe. And you know what, I'll complete the trifecta. You can like and subscribe, and then if you want, you could leave us a rating and a review wherever you listen to your podcasts, because several people already have, and it's the nicest thing ever when they're kind about it. So that's why we changed the name.
I'm given to understand that those ratings or reviews help us be discovered by other folks that might want to listen. I heard that on a podcast called Passions and Prologues at one point in my life.
That on a podcast called All of Them Ever.
Oh, that's right. All
yeah.
of them ever.
So, it would be really, really cool if you guys are listening, if you can subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. This is literally just Jay and I doing this together and hoping to turn it into something. So we appreciate that. And with that, I think we've successfully done some banter.
Banter and I think housekeeping, they call it?
And housekeeping.
Wow. Should we just call it off for the rest of the day?
Yeah, I think we're good. Let's just go ahead and make this a 9-minute podcast. People love short podcasts, I bet. I wouldn't know. I've never done a short podcast. But okay, I don't want to we're going to get into our small topics, but please, what are our small topics called, Jay? I just want to hear you say it again.
Yeah, first of all, I'm just going to give you a second to smash some bump music. And here we are. Let's get into our little baby topics. And let's start with the first one, which is, I just mentioned that I went to Skye's 4-year-old well child appointment. That was a 1-to-1 with the nurse practitioner. But you recently went to an appointment that was a group appointment. I've done that a little bit here and there, but I want to hear your experience. How'd it go?
Yeah, super, super cool. So for Wren's 1 month checkup, which was actually when she was 3 weeks old, the pediatric people that we go to here in Northeast Ohio, it's called Senders. They are an incredible pediatric group. There's a ton of doctors, a ton of nurse practitioners. They have a whole breastfeeding, lactation arm of the thing. Really, really cool. And one of the things they do, because they have so many resources, is they do this 1 month group checkup. So basically anyone who is going to Senders and has a baby of similar age, 3 weeks to a month old, they bring you all in together, and they do the physical checkups. And Wren absolutely crushed it. She's in like the 75th percentile for weight, like the 75th percentile for height. And of course, because she's my daughter, like the 86th percentile for head size. Giant noggin. But so they check all the babies. But the really cool thing about it is just like you're sitting in, it's almost like group therapy where everyone gets a chance to talk about their labor and delivery process, which actually Jay's going to talk about Jay and Jess's experience in just a little bit here. But it was just really cool to hear other people talk about their experience, but also in the moment. Again, Wren was 3 weeks old at the time, and the other babies were around the same age. Just hearing other babies, the babies weren't talking, hearing other parents talk about how they're handling nights, or like, are they taking their baby out and about like we are as much, or like just kind of getting to not only hear other people's experiences, but also kind of like give advice sort of to people our own age and who are also doing the same thing. It was super helpful. It just helped, for me, obviously it helped me hear other dads, but for Alex, it was really really helpful to hear other birthing experiences, because we talked about ours last week and it was very traumatic, and someone else's in this group was substantially more scary than ours. And like, doesn't mean Alex is any less justified in what her experience was, but it was just great. It was great to hear. And so I know lots of people have access to stuff like this. If you're able to go to group parent classes like this, I think they have one for 2 months, and then they go all the way up, I think, to 6 months. And then they said once babies are 6 months old and older, it's way more chaotic. So it was just a really cool experience. And I think we're going to try and go to them every single month until they stop doing them, because it was just awesome to like, you feel less isolated. Not that Alex and I feel isolated, but when you're in the trenches of a newborn and you're getting up all the time, and it's really cool to hear other people's experiences. So yeah, highly recommend it. You guys did this a little bit, you said, right?
I think we did it twice, but I feel like with Eliza only. Skye was a baby kind of like right after COVID, but yeah. I say right after COVID as if it's gone. Right after lockdown, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
With Eliza, I feel like she was older, though. I feel like it was like 1 or 2 years old. But it was a really cool experience. I don't know, I kind of get, you guys, again, you're not super into Bluey yet, but you'll eventually come across the episode called Baby Race, where it's all about how Bluey couldn't walk before one of the other, I don't know, Aussie dogs on the show. Mm-hmm. And it's about like how when Chili, Bluey's mom, is recanting the story to Bluey, Bluey's like, what did you do about this when I couldn't crawl when the others could crawl? And she was like all up in arms about it. And the mom was just like, eventually you have to learn that every baby goes at their own pace, and it's not a race. You all do things. You just have things that you're good at, and other people have other things that they're good at, and it's not a race. And I feel like the only drawback for me would be, am I worried that if another child can do something that my child can't, mm-hmm. Are we failing in some way? Because, of course, I would just jump to like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I will say social media is bad for that too, because like there's all these like, here's what you should be doing with your newborn during the wake window, and they give you like 78 activities, and it's like you can always feel less than, and you can obviously, like you said, in these groups. Like, it was kind of funny because compared to the other babies, one of them was a preemie and like one of them was just not as big. We were calling Wren like a King Kong baby by comparison because she looked massive. And she is. She's growing so much already. It's crazy. But I know what you mean about it. I feel like it's always this like race to being like, can I do all the things? It's like, should I be reading to my baby right now, or is it good enough that I'm just playing with her and dancing while she's awake? But I loved it, at least, like I said, at least for like the newborn experience. It's really cool just to like realize that you're not alone and other people are experiencing this as well. So
yeah, for sure.
All right, moving on in our widow baby topics, you wanted to talk about swearing, you old so-and-so you.
Well, yeah, first of all, since we're in episode 3 now, I thought that we should talk a little bit about our stance on swearing in the podcast. And you and I have actually not talked a lot about this in advance of this conversation, so I'll be interested to see where we come off. But my perspective on this is, not that this is a show for kids, but I would love for parents to be able to listen to it with their kids in the car, whether they're actively paying attention or not actively paying attention. For me, swearing doesn't hurt anyone. And I do have a little bit of like leftover bias in my brain from, well, it's not professional to swear in certain settings. And I think that's just because older folks did not swear and they were brought up maybe in the church, and those people became your business professionals, and it became not okay, appropriate, or whatever. It became taboo to swear in those circles. But now, as younger people are moving into leadership roles in business and in the world generally, I think swearing is more okay. Mm-hmm. I'm really articulating this well. However, I do understand that there are certain people out there who would prefer not to have their kids be a potty mouth. So we, for example, have no problem listening to Taylor Swift or other songs in the car where they're swearing. Mm-hmm. But we don't really swear a ton in front of our kids outside of that. They've heard it before. They've said some of them before, which is also funny. But for the purposes of the podcast, my thought is we good place this shirt and insert other words where adults know what we're saying, but kiddos maybe don't.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, I will say Alex and I have talked about this, and like, we're of the belief that there's no bad words, but there are bad times to say them. And so it's easy for me to say that, though, with a 4-week-old who isn't processing the words that we're saying. But at the same time, like you said, as we grow and get tens of thousands of millions of listeners, I don't want really anybody to be offended if we're saying certain things. And I would, like you said, there may be some parents who are saying, like, we're not swearing in front of our kids. And I think you and I are eloquent and verbose enough to not swear. And I think while I do love creative swearing, I think there's some fun creativity in using swearing. There's also, it can show a lack of creativity and knowledge if you're like, I need to use swear words to fill up a sentence. There's definitely many, like you said, this is our 3rd episode, so I guess we've recorded like an hour and a half's worth of content or whatever it is. I know for a fact we haven't sworn because I edit these. And it's not hard. Like, I don't find myself being like, oh man, I wish I could have dropped an F-bomb there. I love this. I think it's a good topic to bring up. And I'll be interested. I think one of my things that I'm excited about this podcast is like I know my parenting will evolve as Wren and any potential future kids that come along, like, get a little bit older. And so that's kind of one of the points of this podcast is adjusting and changing how I think. Because right now I'm like, oh, I'm probably going to swear in front of Wren and just teach her like when and when not. But as she becomes a toddler and says hilarious things out in public and I can't stop her from doing that, I might be like, well, actually, I should be cooler with how I say things. That was a long-winded agreement with what you were saying.
No, did you know that Will Smith don't have to cuss in his raps to sell records?
Yeah, but I do. So, F you and F him too. Or the other way.
Also, so we've been rewatching Ted Lasso, which we could probably do a whole episode on Ted Lasso, the arc, and it's coming back. But the one I watched yesterday, it's interesting that I think this is the second time I've had like a reference to something we were watching. Yeah, Parks and Rec the first time.
Parks and Rec, yeah.
This time, yesterday, watched the episode where Roy has to go pick up Phoebe from school because she gets the boot for the day because she's been swearing. And the teacher just kind of looks and was like, any idea where she could have learned this? And he's just like, anyway,
yeah,
do your own thing. I feel like the most inclusive we can be, since all are welcome here, is to just good place it up.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And it'd be incredible if I said I'm not in agreement with that while wearing a hoodie that says equality. So I
do that.
With you.
One more Widow Baby topic. Let's move on. I'm just curious, how are you guys doing? You already said that Wren had a great night last night, but generally speaking, how are you guys handling nights? It's one of the hardest things for a new parent to kind of figure out the balance of mom and dad working together and making sure everybody's getting enough sleep.
Yeah, so this will be relatively quick, but we've gotten into a good pattern. So I will be by the time people hear this, my paternity leave, the first chunk of my paternity leave will have ended, and so I'll be getting up. And I work remotely, I work from home, but we've kind of figured out like it will work best if I can get a big chunk of sleep going into when I actually have to wake up for the morning. And so what we have started doing is I take the first feeding. So Wren gets a bath and fed sometime between 8 and 9 every single day. And then she's usually in her bassinet by herself with a sound machine by about 9 o'clock. And we've obviously got monitors, so Alex and I can go, be partners and talk about things that aren't baby related for at least an hour before we go to bed. And so what we're doing, splitting the shift where I take the first wake up, which is usually sometime between 1 and 3. And I'll feed her, I'll change her. She's such an awesome baby. Even when she's fussy, it's usually no more than like 45 minutes to an hour. So I'm usually back in bed by, at the very latest, like 3:30. And then I will basically sleep until I have to get up at like 6:30 to hang out with the dogs and get them ready and get ready for the day. And she'll take any wake up that happens after that first wake up. Again, last night she was amazing. It just so happened that she woke up between like 2:30 and 3. And then the next time she woke up was like 6:30. Like, it was basically morning. Can't believe it. And then we fed her, and then she went back to bed till like 9:30. World-class baby. An added part of this, Holden, incredible dog who doesn't do stairs anymore. Stairs, of course, are a young man's game. That's another Parks and Rec reference. But all that means is like, I used to carry him up and down the stairs before Wren came along, and now it's just too much. So he sleeps downstairs. So one of us is sleeping on the couch for part of the night. And like, while that kind of sucks and is a little bit of a bummer, the funny part is like when one of us is sleeping upstairs with Wren, the other one is sleeping on the couch. And so when Wren gets up, the other one is unbothered entirely because they're on the couch. So we legitimately are each getting like a 4-hour chunk and then some more sleep. So that's how we're handling it. It's been amazing. I know that there are much more challenging children out there. I know that, like, your kids, for example, I think Eliza had a lot of trouble sleeping. So, like, we fully acknowledge how lucky we are that Wren is waking up basically once during the middle of the night as a 4-week-old. That's insane. I'm sure she'll regress. But for now, the fact that I feel great is hilarious, and I'm very thankful for it.
Love that. Skye was a really good sleeper most of his life. Eliza, the first several months, was like not. She would not sleep at all unless we were holding her. It was really, really difficult. It did get better once she could roll over, which she did pretty early, thankfully. But glad to hear that you're having a good experience and that you guys are getting some good sleep and you have found that balance. It is interesting how dogs, senior dogs and puppy dogs, can help train you a little bit because you're just up a lot, early, late, middle of the night. Our dogs have been getting up in the middle of the night. As I shared in one of the previous episodes, they've been sick, and now they're on this high fiber food, and it's like they got to poop every 3 to 4 hours, regardless of sleep or not.
Listen, I take Miralax. I get it.
Amen, brother.
Let's dive in. Let's dive into the big baby topic. So last week, I obviously talked about our experience having Wren and the labor and delivery, and we thought it would be a good idea for Jay to talk about Jay and Jess's experience. Obviously, you guys had some harrowing stuff happen as well, so we haven't gotten this right together at the same time yet saying this, but I'm gonna try and give us like a non-verbal countdown. Let's see if we can do this in 3, 2.
Let's dad this.
That's always going to be a delay. That's okay. All right,
Nailed
take it away,
it.
Jay. Talk about your guys' experience.
Yeah, so I'm gonna focus on Eliza and Skye because that was the 2 babies with Jess. Lily's is back, almost 14 years, and frankly, it's just a bit of a blur at this point. So I don't want to do her any misjustice. For the purposes of this conversation, I want to narrow into Eliza and Skye. Born in 2018 in August. We had no plan to be induced. In fact, she was born at 40 plus 3, I think, or 40 plus 4. So it was like beyond the 40-week mark. And it was like 41 weeks where we would have thought about going to get induced. But whatever the day was, we went to dinner and went to Mitchell's Ice Cream, which is a Cleveland ice cream place. If you don't know it, it's delicious. You should absolutely go there. And as we're leaving, so she had to walk a little bit. We went to this restaurant, and then Mitchell's was kind of like up the hill, maybe like half a block or so from the restaurant. And then we walked back to our car. And our car was parked on a real bumpy road. And as we're leaving, I hit one of the potholes, and she looks at me and she's like, "You're going to send me into labor here? Jeez." Whatever, we're making a joke. It's like 10 o'clock at night. We drive the 25 or so minutes home, or towards home, and I say, "Oh, I have to stop and get a gift card," because I had just taken a new job and I wanted to get a gift card for this guy that helped me get the job. And so we stop at Giant Eagle, which is our local grocery store, and we get inside there, and Jess is like, "I gotta go to the bathroom." Like, had a terrible stomach ache. And so she goes, and she's like, "This was the most disgusting bathroom of all time. I really feel like terrible. I can't believe you made me stop here. I'm like plus 40 weeks pregnant, and like you're making me walk around this store and go in this bathroom." And so she's just like not happy. We get home, get changed. It's like 11:30 at night, and she comes out of the bathroom, and she's just like, "I think my water just broke." And I'm like, "Wait, seriously? Like, what do we do now?" So I remember us like calling, and I think we had to time contractions or something at that point. And then ultimately they're like, "Okay, just come in, just come to the hospital." So we get in there, kind of similar situation to you guys, where we're like, we didn't get roomed until like early in the morning, late at night,
rough.
Whatever you want to call it. Like, yeah. And we'd been up all day as well. And Jess was kind of undecided about getting an epidural, and they talked us through, like, if you decide that you want one, you got to give us like a significant amount of time because you need to get an entire IV bag in you before we can give you the epidural, and then we have to like find the anesthesiologist and make sure they can come up. So it's like from the time you tell us that you want it to the time you actually get it might be like 90 minutes. So tell us early. And she was having insane back labor, which I had never even heard of. Like, I didn't know that was a thing. But the only thing that would help make it feel better is like I had to like lean on something and then like shove my hand or my like elbow into her back for counter pressure is the only thing that helped at all. Finally, I want to say it was like 6 or 7 in the morning. and she gets the epidural and she's able to rest, and she's like, yes, I can still feel pressure, but this is like 1,000 times better than it was. And my mother-in-law came to the hospital pretty much right after we got there. There was one tiny little couch chair thingy to sleep on. You mentioned it in the pod last week. She slept on that, so I just was like sitting in this chair while they were both sleeping. Jess, like maybe getting a little bit of sleep here and there, but to your point, like every 20 minutes nurses come in, and the babies, they lose track of the baby because she moved or Jess moved, and they have to like readjust things. So to keep this entire segment a little bit short, I'll just say like it was an exhausting experience. We had a midwife that came in, I don't know, a couple hours before labor and said like, hey, I'm here. I'm training to be a midwife. If you're open to it, I'd love to be a part of the delivery. And we said, sure. She was just super sweet and ended up being a godsend. She helped keep things from tearing more than they needed to, and helped ensure kind of a seamless delivery. And finally, about 4:14, Liza was born, and about 4:15, I needed to sit down because I thought I was going to pass out from like all the things that were going on, and I felt like honestly, like I'm laughing about it, but I felt like such a little bit of a failure because I'm like, how am I like not able to just like be here? Mm-hmm. And then my mother-in-law was just like, it's fine. Like, you haven't slept either. You went through this. It's a lot. You're not good with blood and surgery and everything. And the smells, like I mentioned. But Eliza was born. She was 9 pounds. So a big baby. Jess did an amazing job. Yeah. The thing I really remember is like, she went from like 3 centimeters to 9, like instantly. Mm-hmm. It took forever to get to 3. And then it was like,
do you remember how tall Eliza was?
Yeah, Liz, of course I remember. I want to say maybe 20 or 21 inches.
Yeah. I've learned, we have tall babies.
Tall babies. That's right.
Yeah.
And we're tall people.
We're tall. We're okay. I'm like 5'11". You're 6 feet. I mean, our sisters are both tall. Our brother-in-law is very tall, but like,
not related to us, but
not related to us. Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
Blood-wise.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
so...
You have a second delivery though that's a little more scary.
Yeah. And so that one was fine. Like, we were there for a couple days, but after the delivery, everything went according to plan. Fast forwarding to Skye. Again, Skye was born in March of 2021, so we are like in the pandemic, mostly locked down still. Things were starting to open back up, but our hospital said no visitors. That was their policy. Mm-hmm. We were in masks the whole time. I don't know if you guys remember that. We all had to wear masks for a while, for like a year, anytime we were around anybody. On planes, still sometimes. So we go in. That was a planned induction. And so we went in on St. Patrick's Day, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. and got room to like 8:30 or 9. Yeah, exactly. I was on my run streak at this point, so I'm like, when am I going to run? I had already run for the St. Patrick's Day, but like for the next day, I'm like, when am I going to do this? That's the most important thing, of course.
Yeah. Although for what it's worth, not to cut you off, we haven't talked about this yet. Jay we are a running family. We'll get into this in future episodes, but just really quickly, at time of recording, when you say run streak, what day running outside in a row are you on?
Somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,730.
Yeah.
It was July 18th, 2020.
Yeah, just want to give you some flowers. Okay, I'm sorry. Continue. Skye,
Thank you.
You're the real hero. Jess is wearing a mask and in labor, but you got to find your run. You're so brave.
That's exactly right. Thank you. So I think that's about it.
Perfect. Great job.
Thanks. So we get in there, and like finally around 11 o'clock, they're like, hey, we are not going to start anything yet. We have a couple moms come in that are like in labor actively, and like, we could start you now, but we don't know if we'd have anyone to catch like when the time came. So we're just going to hold off. So they held off on everything. They're like, we're going to start it again like 3 a.m. So get some sleep. And I was like, okay, it's almost midnight. I'm going to go run outside the hospital at midnight to get my run in for the day while Jess sleeps. Get back, and 3 o'clock we start everything. Same thing. Like it just went slow. Everything seemed like a normal delivery. She like took forever to get to 5. It was like 2:30 p.m. and she was at 5 centimeters, and then at like 3:15 she was at like 10. Like, it is go time. And they're like, we had mentioned like Eliza was born in that room at 4:14, and they're like, 4:14. We could absolutely make that happen. Like same room, same exact time, definitely. And then they came in at like 3:59, and they're like, nope, not making it to 4:14. So she immediately like bops this kid out. 4:04, smooth delivery, everything is great. And we're like, we cannot believe how this went. We put Skye onto her chest, and everything just feels perfect. And about like 10 or 15 minutes later, a bunch of nurses rush in and a doctor rushes in. And Jess is like, I don't know why they're in here, but like there was something going on with her blood pressure. And they see that she is like hemorrhaging blood, like just gushing blood. So they're like, okay, let's like keep an eye on this. And because I don't want to like get super emotional in this, for the next 4 hours, they had to keep an eye on her bleeding, and we're literally weighing the amount of blood that she was losing, and they couldn't stop it. They had to keep coming in and rubbing on her stomach to try to get her to like get everything out that was in there. But it got to the point where, as this little baby is just like sleeping so nicely on her chest, like I'm trying not to show that I'm panicked, but they keep coming in and they're like thinking, like, she's gonna bleed out if she doesn't get some care. And they were like, we might have to take her to the operating room, and you're gonna have to take the baby and like sign some documents to say like we did everything we could. Like all of these thoughts are going through my mind, and of course I'm just trying to like sit there and be like, it's okay, you got this, it's fine, they're just taking care of you. I should say that after Eliza was born, she had a little bit of extra bleeding, and they gave her a shot of, I don't know what it was, that stopped it. Didn't work this time. And she was at the point where like one more gush of blood, and they were going to have to go and like do, I think it's a DNC, to try and stop this and hope that they could basically save her life. And not that I want to pivot to this. Like, so obviously everything ended up okay. They were able to get her to stop bleeding. She didn't end up needing the procedure. But I mean, we were 1 minute and one opinion away from having them do that. And it would have been super dangerous for her at that point. She had blood transfusions, so thank you to all the people that donate blood. And one of the reasons that I'm incredibly passionate about reproductive rights is, in a state like Texas, even Ohio for a while there, a DNC would be one of those things that is not just 100%, a doctor be 100% confident that they're not going to get some kind of penalty for performing, even though this baby was already out of her body. And that's what she would have needed to save her life. So the whole time, again, this is going on, Skye is just like an angel laying on her chest. And when the whole thing finally comes to a close and they're like, okay, you're not bleeding, we're out of the danger zone now, we can all like take a deep breath, it's just like your tears just flow down your face. And because again, like she's going through this, you don't want her to see how scared you are. And so anyway.
Yeah. Well, first off, thank you for sharing. And like about the DNC thing, like you said, like we're never going to get political, but also it'll be very obvious what your and I's politics are. And like Alex had to have a DNC because we had a miscarriage a year before Wren was born. And like that is the only way safely to remove a non-viable, whatever you want to call it, fetus, clump of cells at that point, like whatever you want to say. She was 10 weeks along. A DNC was the only way to safely make sure that her body would evacuate that. And I can't imagine, like you said, what you were going through. And I feel like we're walking this line with each episode of like talking about what dads go through while not like making about, like we are not the main character in a lot of these situations. But to your point, like being with your partner, being with Jess, trying to like embrace this moment, like she just brought a child into this world. You're trying to enjoy every second of that while also, like you said, very aware of the doctors and nurses in these hospitals are incredible. But it's also very obvious when you're like, there probably shouldn't be 10 of you in this room after labor and delivery has quote unquote concluded. So I can't imagine. I remember like, and then of course when you tell family and friends, you say like, well, there were some complications and like, but you don't get into like, yeah, just almost like it was very, very like touch and go for a minute. You just kind of say there were some complications and she had some bleeding, but everything turned out like you give people the most cliff note of cliff notes. And so like, thank you for sharing. And more importantly, because I know she'll listen, Jess, thank you for letting Jay share that, because I still can't imagine what you guys were feeling in that moment.
Yeah, and I think thank you for saying that. And yes, there's a lot of content out there for moms there's not a lot of content out there that's like showing what the dad is going through. And 100% like what I was going through, like just being scared was nothing compared to what she was going through. But you are thinking to yourself, like, I'm going to lose my person. What am I going to do? What are these kids going to do? Anyway, it's just, it's not anything that you'd wish on anyone. And so we're fortunate to have gotten through it. And some folks are not fortunate to have things work out the way that they did. But, you just kind of think, you just try to express gratitude as you go across. And we took cookies and flowers and all the things we could think to the support staff at the hospital. As soon as we got out, like we basically didn't even come home. We just like went straight back and were like, thank you so much for taking care of us.
That's how I would like tie a bow on this. Is the same thing for us. Like they're just this incredible reminder that these people are so exceptionally talented at their jobs. To like they know that they're dealing with like life and death for multiple people, newborns and parents and everything, and they like the way that they handle stuff is just astonishing.
And the ricochets that they go through, like again, we thought everything went perfectly according to plan with Skye until it didn't. And it's like that stark or that sharp turn is what really gets you. So anyway, hug your babies, hug your partners, and be grateful that they're here. And for those that didn't get blessed to have that outcome, reach out to somebody and find someone you can talk to about it.
Yeah, fully agree. We're going to take a quick break so we don't do a hard pivot into much later stuff, but we are going to pivot into much later stuff, so hold tight. And welcome back. Man, what a good idea to put those in there. So much easier from an editing standpoint. All right, we are going to end this podcast the way
what?
Oh, go. Yes.
We forgot to say thank you to Mitchell's Ice Cream for sponsoring our... I think it's Mitchell's Homemade, technically. So, Mitchell's, thank you. Hit us up.
That's fantastic. So, thank you, Mitchell's.
You got it.
Really love that insert flavor here that you guys make. It's the best. Okay, we're going to end this episode the way we end every episode since the last episode until we change how we end our episodes. Let's get into some dad stuff, which is just stuff that we frequently use that we're really loving. I have a couple small, quick ones here. The first one is a Snuggle Me Lounger, which is a thing that I know, Jay, you guys also had. The best way I can describe it is picture a dog bed. Now picture that for the size of a baby. It is just a little bed that has like cushioned bumpers basically around the outside of it that you can put your baby in, and it's really convenient because you can take it and you can put it on the couch, or you can put it on a table, or you can put it on your bed. And like, we don't use it for nighttime sleep, but if Wren is being fussy and Alex is pumping and I'm, for example, recording a podcast with my brother, we can plop her in there. So Snuggle Me Lounger, so good.
Ours was something else. What was it? Fork my ash.
Really good job.
Thank you. You talk about the next thing. I'm going to do a Google.
Yeah.
I remember thinking to myself, sorry, before you get off the topic, I remember thinking to myself, because Jess was like, hey, we need this. And I'm like, that is a dog bed, and it is $300. Why would we ever possibly need this? And it was like, again, Eliza did not sleep. So being able to put her in that thing in between us in the morning, at least, when like one of us is nodding off and the other one is not, clutch. So I'll figure out what it was called. I cannot believe it's not coming to me right now. But
yeah, so ours is called the Snuggle Me Lounger. It looks so much like a dog bed that one of our dogs, Riley, laid down in it, which is very, very funny. The second thing is a Dream Baby bath thermometer, or as I like to call him, the temperature turtle. This is literally just like it looks like a little toy turtle, and you put it in the bathtub, and it just shows you like digitally what the temperature of the bath is. And I cannot tell you how calming and wonderful that is to know while you're filling up the water, because we use that Moms on Call, and it basically tells you like keep the bath water between like 98 and 100 degrees. That's a really small range, and naturally I don't want to put it too hot and like have her freak out, and I don't want it to be too cold and have her freak out. So the temperature turtle is amazing. You just drop it in the water, it tells you the temperature. I think it was like $12 on Amazon. The actual name is the Dream Baby Bath Thermometer. I call him Temperature Turtle. He's my favorite. He's my buddy.
I love that. Does he light up or anything?
So a cool thing he will do, great question. Thank you for asking. If the temperature gets above 100 degrees, a little red light will come on, as if to say, don't put your baby in this hot, hot soup. It's too hot for your baby. And it'll like have a green light if it's in the
You're
correct
boiling
zone.
your child.
You're literally boiling your baby. But other than that,
By
it
the
just
way,
is like
we're laughing, but like, don't boil your child.
don't boil your don't boil your baby. So that is cool. But it's just like it was
Merch,
nice.
merch. Don't boil your baby. Merch.
Thank you.
Dakatot, by the way. Ours was a Dakatot.
Next one, any portable sound machine. Hatch is the popular one. I know that we got ours on Amazon for like $20. I know Jay's going to double stamp the Hatch in just a moment, but we have two sound machines. They're little tiny if you're watching on YouTube. They're like the size of a hockey puck. We just put it at the very, very end of Wren's bassinet or just outside of her crib. White noise it's like magic. You put a white noise machine on and she passes right out. So highly recommend them. We take them literally everywhere we go. And just she sleeps. It's amazing.
Yep. Here's my double stamp in the Hatch. Works for littles, works for older kids. Like honestly, Jess and I have thought about getting one in our room because right now we have a baby monitor that just goes back and forth between the two younger kids, and like we're hearing their white noise, but it's interrupted, and so we're hearing like having our own would be clutch. And actually, Eliza the other day was like, "I don't want the sound machine on. I'm not a baby," and I'm like, dude, even when you are an adult, you will want this. I've used like the white noise on Spotify before because it's so helpful in falling asleep. So yes, ours, we have the taller one that stands up. It's like a little bit of a tower because it's also got a little nightlight on it that they like.
That's
and
awesome. Yeah,
for Skye, he's an early riser. And so that light we can set to turn green at like 7 a.m. And he knows he's not allowed to come out of his room until, so he can wake up before it. He's just not allowed to come out of his room until that light turns green.
That's
and
awesome.
then he comes in every morning. What it does, he's like, I waited till my light turns green. I slept up. He says slept up instead of sleeping
You
in.
sure did sleep up. I'm so proud of you, Skye. Those are the ones for me this week. I will. The only other thing, we have video monitor on here. The only thing I'll say about our video monitors that I really love is it shows you the temperature of the rooms. We have a monitor for our bassinet and the crib. The crib is in her own nursery, and it just tells you the temperature of the room, which is just like a nice peace of mind. You're like, oh, okay, it's not too hot, it's not too cold in there. So that's a cool little bonus. Those are all my dad stuffs that I've enjoyed this week.
Ours do the same. I'm just going to add two more things, which is if you're a parent of a child with sensitive skin, we use, and I'm not going to specify a brand, but I cannot recommend highly enough, dye-free and scent-free laundry soap. We've always done it since the kids have been born, but there's been a couple times when they had other laundry detergent, and their skin immediately gets rashy. So if your kids are like my kids and have sensitive skin, dye-free laundry soap.
I think it's from Mitchell's Ice Cream is the people that make it.
Weird flavor, but hey. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, again, like in the interest of like we try to be as chemical free as possible. By the way, there is an Instagram account that I'd highly recommend you follow called Creative Explained. And this guy does things with like lemons and baking soda and shows you how to make your own cleansers that have zero chemicals in them at all. And it's like stuff you can find around your house. So follow that.
Wait, real quick. Is he Is he the guy that also tells you how to like grow a pineapple? He's like, here's how to grow a pineapple with this one pineapple seed.
Indeed, he is. And he makes most of his videos to either Without Me, the Eminem song, or he raps them to a beat that sounds similar to Without Me by Eminem. So yeah, Creative Explained. He's awesome. If he wants to sponsor our next episode, we are looking Creative Explained. Armin, I think is your name.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Hit us up, dude. We probably have as many followers as you by now.
Just about. So close.
So close. Last thing, because we are pivoting away from chemicals as much as we can, last year we did a package with Blue Land, which has pretty much any cleaning product that you could want, but they sell them in like tab form, so you're not actually paying for water and they're not shipping water, and all of their things come in recyclable, biodegradable packaging. So like, for example, our toilet pucks, hockey pucks that you throw in the toilet instead of like squirting around, they come in a paper bag, and then they send you a container, like a tin container that you keep them in, so you just refill the tin container, and there's no like buying plastic bottles that would then just end up in a landfill, even though they say they're recycled, but 90% of plastics don't actually get recycled. So Blue Land, we do get laundry detergent there. We're still deciding if we like it or not. Dye-free, scent-free, everything like that. We get our dishwasher tabs, we get our toilet tabs, and then our general like all-purpose cleaner that we use for pretty much everything comes from Blue Land. I think it was like $200 for all of that stuff for the year. Jess would have to confirm that. But if you are looking to go to cleansers that have no harsh chemicals and that are significantly better for the environment, highly recommend you check out Blue Land. And again, Blue Land, we're looking for a sponsor for episode 5.
I was just going to say, I've actually, ironically, Blue Land, the way that I heard about them is from other podcasts. So while we're making jokes, that one we actually probably have a chance of landing a sponsorship. So
yeah, let's go, Blue Land.
Yeah.
I'm running out of toilet tabs. I used my second to last one in our downstairs bathroom yesterday.
Okay,
Smells great, by the way.
Well, get on that, Blue Land. Okay, that's our episode. Feel like hitting our stride, almost certainly kind of knowing what we're doing here. Any closing thoughts you've got? I've got nothing else. I'm just playing out the string here.
Yeah, I do think that we're going to have a couple of guests join us over the next handful of episodes. I'm excited for that. And if anybody has comments, stuff you'd like to hear us talk about, stuff you'd like us to stop talking about, pop it in the comments wherever you leave comments. And please review us. Yeah, we've been great.
We've been great. Thanks for listening.